Convention of States. Laura, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kim. Good morning. How are you doing today?
I am doing well. And John, welcome to the show. It's great to have you as well.
Thank you.
So, Laura, let's start with you. Article 5, the Convention of States. Explain to people what this is exactly so that people have a better understanding of what it is.
Absolutely. So Article 5 of the Constitution tells us how we are allowed to amend the Constitution. And when it started out, they gave the power to Congress, like we know. We have 27 amendments to the Constitution right now, and it's been done the same way. Congress has proposed amendments. They go back to the states to be ratified. 3/4 of the states must ratify. 2 days before they actually signed the Constitution on September 15th, George Mason realized that if this government ever became tyrannical, there was not a way for the states to amend the Constitution. And you got to realize these people knew what tyranny was. They were living it. They were fighting it. So they came up with the second part of Article 5, which allows if 2/3 of the states call for a convention, the convention gets called by Congress, they propose amendments which go back to the states to be ratified. If 3/4 of the states, which right now is 38 states, ratifies the amendment, it becomes part of the Constitution. It was the way to give the states the power that they needed to rein in a overreaching federal government.
So, John, where are we at with this I guess I'm going to say movement. Where are we at with this?
Well, I'll describe it very quickly nationally, and then I'll jump into where we are in Colorado very quick. By the way, that introduction of that change to Article 5 2 days before they sent it for ratification to the state, if that wasn't divine intervention, I don't know what was. Putting that Constitution together. Anyhow, COS has been in operation for 10 full years. The 10th anniversary was actually yesterday, Sunday. No, it was Sunday, 2 days ago. But anyhow, so far, 19 states have passed the resolution to call the Article 5 Convention. There are 2 more states, North Carolina and Kansas, where it has passed both houses in the state legislature, but it has not gone through the final legislative protocols to be effective, okay? So we need 34. We need 34 states to pass this resolution in order to call the convention. And I think an important thing about it is Congress has only 2 powers associated with calling that convention, where and when. Once they have the application from the 34 states, all they can say is, okay, we'll hold it during this time period in this location, and they are out of it. Then they are out of it. Now, in 7 other states nationally, the resolution has passed in 1 house of its legislatures. And then finally, in 17 other states, there is active legislation for the COS resolution, Colorado being one of them. So in 10 years, we've gone to de facto 19 to 21 states that have approved it. That means we've got about 10, 11 more, 12 more in order to pass this. And in Colorado, because, everybody asks that, well, where are we? It's been active here for 10 years. Former Senator Lundberg, as a state senator, in 2014, first introduced the resolution, which went nowhere. And then in 2022, we introduced it in the House, the resolution. This was a lot of work with legislators at the Capitol. And it never really made it into committee discussion. It was toward the end of the 2022 session. But in 2023, we reintroduced the resolution in the Senate this time to the 2 senators. Pelton sponsored it, and we got it referred to committee. And then we had public testimony for it in a very short period of time, with several hours of committee public testimony. And as you might expect, given the makeup of the legislature, it was killed in committee, voted down along party lines 3-2. But the testimony was robust and compelling, and it was a major move forward with us. And in the state of Colorado, we will be back in January for the next legislative session. We're not giving up. Let me stop there.
Okay, so Laura, a couple of questions. John mentioned that we need to get to 34. So is that 2/3? Is that the benchmark, that trying to get to 2/3 of the states for that?
That is correct. 2/3 of the states must call for the convention, and that is 34 right now.
Okay, and what about time frame, Laura? John said that you've been working on this for 10 years. Is there any particular clock that is running on this?
No, there is not a clock on it. We keep fighting it. Some of the states, I believe Texas had a sunset clause on their resolution. I believe that was voted down this year, so we're back in the game with that. If you got in a brand new legislature that came in and wanted to rescind the resolution, that could happen. The real time clock with it is, look at our government. We have got to get this done. Most people don't even know about Convention of States action. We are out here to educate people. We don't have any power. We don't own this convention. It's not ours. But people don't know this constitutional option is available to us. So the more we get the word out there, the more pressure we put on our legislatures nationally, we will get this thing done.
Okay. Right. I'd add one thing to that. 18 months ago, we only had 15 states with a passed resolution. We now have 19 and 2 more that are de facto. The momentum has increased in the last 2 years. Well, fairly straightforwardly, the state legislatures independently in each of the states decides how to select, appoint, charge, and that is what's the commission of the delegates. And then the final thing would be how to hold them accountable for sticking with what you're allowed to talk about, okay, at the convention. And probably the best thing I can say about it is that of the 19 states that have passed the resolution, I'm doing this from memory. It's either 8, I think it's 11 states have actually passed model legislation that was provided by the Convention of States about, okay, how do you do this? How do you vet, select, appoint? But more importantly, what charge do you give them? And then how do you hold them accountable? So there is ready-made legislation that could be taken by any state and customized to how they want to select and appoint and then send their delegates or commissioners to the convention.
Okay. I'm talking with Laura Neimeister and John Graboski with Colorado Convention of States. And Laura, what if this convention, once this convention is held, what will be the focus of what the delegates are supposed to do? I know that there's been people that have been concerned. They said it could become a runaway convention, that in fact the U.S. Constitution actually became a runaway convention when we created the Constitution. So what would you say to that, Laura?
Well, it's a long topic to go into. Very simply, it was not a runaway convention. We have the commissions from these guys, and they did have the permission to do. It was called by Virginia. They had the permissions to do what they needed to do to get a federal government created. But to skip on that, because that is a big argument, the 3 things that this convention is calling for is fiscal restraints. We want these people accountable for the money that they're spending, to stop the federal overreach using the bureaucrats to make laws for us, and term limits on really anyone, whether it be judges or Congress or the bureaucrats themselves who have been there way too long. The main thing, that with this, when they wrote the Constitution, they were not following a Constitution. We are bound by the Constitution of the United States of how this gets done. No matter what comes out of convention, it has to be ratified by 38 states. It is a huge bar. Just a little history. There have been over 2,000 amendments proposed to the Constitution. Only 33 have gone to the states for ratification, and 27 have made it in.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, John, your comment?
Our mantra is term limits, fiscal restraint, and stop the federal overreach. Those are the three things. And when you look at the actual COS resolution that the state legislatures passed, those three things are in there specifically and nothing else. We're not taking away the Second Amendment. We are not rewriting the Constitution. The content of the resolution tells you this is what this is about. You can propose amendments on these three subjects and nothing else. That's, and it just makes sense, right? All the states agree with the exact same resolution, what we're going to go and try to do in a convention.
So, Laura, you and I, when we were working on our pre-call on this, and you mentioned term limits, and I've thought a lot about term limits, and I know that when people look at Dianne Feinstein. She's been, in Washington, D.C. forever, and so many representatives and senators have been in forever. But I'm very concerned about term limits. Ideally, term limits, I think, should be at the ballot box. But what that requires is an informed and engaged electorate. And when we have what we have in Colorado now with people receiving a mail-in ballot who have no clue really what's going on because they haven't taken the time to do that, it makes it easy for people to continue to get reelected. But my concern is that if we term limited electeds, it would only give more power to the bureaucrats. And so somehow we've got to do some kind of term limits on these bureaucrats. John, it sounds like you might want to take this one on.
Laura, are you okay with that?
Sure, go ahead, John.
Okay, good. But you bring up an excellent, great point. I don't know whether you know, but last week they had a simulated convention down in Williamsburg, Virginia, with representatives from 49 states, and they did a mini convention of states. It was great. The very first thing discussed was term limits, and it originally included not only for the members of Congress, but also for the heads of the various federal agencies, down like 2 levels. It was one heck of a debate to watch on TV. They backed off to Congress only and said, hey, in order to impose term limits on the administrative state, it is a highly complex issue given civil service and a bunch of other things. However, they were intent on, hey, we've got to do really 3 groups: Congress, the judiciary, federal judiciary, and then the administrative state. But that one's going to take weeks of debate to come up with exactly how we would do that. But don't mistake the intent of term limits. It's not just for Congress.
Okay, because I think in some ways Colorado has gotten to Democrat control. I know that there were Republicans that were very involved in term limits here in Colorado, but what happens then is you term out somebody that might be a great representative, and then the voter doesn't really, many times then again it becomes influenced voters versus informed voters, and of course politicians many times do not show their true colors. And so I think that in a way, Laura, that this has contributed to the legislature getting to where we are in Colorado now with radical activists in the legislature and the governor's office. So that's why I'm just concerned about this. And then again, the bureaucratic state gets bigger and bigger. And I say that I was on city council for 4 years in Lone Tree, and I was at a meeting where a bureaucrat said, I'll be here long after you electeds are gone. And so I think that's where I'm concerned about this, Laura.
Yep.
I agree with you completely. I think anybody, if we could have written an amendment, Fauci has been termed out. We know that there's too much power there. So yes, I am with you. I believe conservatives are with you, You've just got to get the right language in these amendments to limit their power, because that really is where it's coming from. You know, the bureaucrats are making the laws for us right now. Look what's going on with the ATF, and it's not the way it's supposed to be. Congress is supposed to have the power to make the laws.
Well, and John, what's happened is that many of these electeds, the politicians, have offloaded their decision making. They've abdicated their responsibility to the administrative state, so that the administrative state can do, and there's fine people that work over there as well, but then there's also dirty work, obviously, that's going on, and they offload it over there so that they can then get reelected. Your thoughts on that, John?
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. I could not have a better straight person for that. The fourth proposed amendment, there were 6 that came out of that simulated convention last week. And the fourth one had to do with the redefinition of the Commerce Clause. Very complex subject there. However, I'll read right from it. Congress cannot delegate rulemaking authority to any executive official or agency. If that doesn't kill it, I don't know what will. And that passed almost unanimously out of that simulated convention last week. So you put your finger on it. That's got to be stopped.
Wow. Gosh, thank you. I'm glad that I was able to contribute on this. Hey, Laura, I'll go to you first. We've got just a couple of minutes left. What's your message that you would like to send to Coloradans today?
Well, I'd like you to become informed. I need you to go to conventionofstates.com and check us out, sign the petition, get involved, talk with your legislators about it. We also, my last thing, we're about to hit a milestone. We've got 2.5 million petition signers that we're about to hit sometime probably in the next couple of days. But I would say get in touch, get involved, get the message out that we can get this done and get Congress, get the federal government back under control.
Well, that, yes, get them back in the box that they're supposed to be in is super important, because when government is big, the individual is small. And so, John Graboski, and again, Laura Neimeister, thank you so much. John Graboski, what is your thought that you'd like to leave with our listeners?
There's really 2 parts of our mission. We have a mission, and that is to build a strong, engaged army of self-governing activists. That's our mission, and our goal is to get the COS resolution passed in the state legislature. One of the most important things you can do is we hold dozens, or participate in dozens of grassroots activities across this state, and we're doing 3 times as much as we did a year ago. The big one coming up is the Colorado State Fair in Pueblo. We're going to be there all 11 days. If any of the listeners are going to be attending that, stop by our tent. We'll talk your ears off and show you how to become engaged. And look for it at any community events that are going on in your community, because we are there, we're active. And what I have to say is, if you're willing to sign that petition, that's our currency. That enables me I'm a lobbyist, legislative liaison, as fancy word for lobbyist. When I'm able to go into a House rep office and say, you know what, I've got 1,200 signatures from your voters, your constituents. You really ought to listen to it. And that's our currency. So I'll stop there. Thanks.
Okay, great. Laura Neimeister, thank you. John Graboski, thank you so much. That was Colorado Convention of States. And our quote for the end of the show, I went to James Monroe, who is our 5th president. And actually in the picture the painting of Washington crossing the Delaware, young Monroe is right behind him holding the flag. But Monroe said this: it was wise, manly, and patriotic for us to establish a free government. It is equally wise to attend the necessary means of its preservation. So my friends, today be grateful, read great books, think good thoughts, listen to beautiful music, communicate and listen well, live honestly and authentically, strive for high ideals, and like Superman, stand for truth, justice, and the American way. My friends, you are not alone. God bless you. God bless America. Stay tuned for hour number 2.